Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the BoricuaBC2 show. I'm your host, Bill Cancel. Let me just start out by giving my trigger warning here. This is an op-ed piece. If you don't like op-eds, scroll on. The name of the show is called The Puppet, and we all know who we're talking about as the puppet, Donald J. Trump. Um, in case you haven't figured out yet, and I'm sure this is going to be hard to believe for many of you, but follow me on this. He is a puppet president. He absolutely is a puppet president. What defines a puppet president? A puppet president is a president of the United States that is influenced by outside or external sources and doesn't necessarily listen to his cabinet or his people. But the big reason for that is because he wants to please his donors, the people who have blackmailed him, the people who have got compromise on him, the people who keep him out of jail, right? And if you look at the list of people that have been around in this puppet mastery game, you have people like Vladimir Putin, uh, to a degree, Orban, absolutely Bibi. Here in the United States, you've got the billionaires. You've got Elon Musk, who, even though they're fighting, Elon's still pulling the strings to a degree. You've got the Heritage Foundation, which is really up on high on the list of puppet masters, right? And then you've got this president who just doesn't do anything. I've yet to see Donald Trump make a decision on his own about something. Now, you could argue, well, that his job as president is not to just come up with all the ideas. His role as president is to get ideas from other people and come up with the best ones. Okay. Yes, that is true, but he consistently comes up with the worst ones, right? Because there's something for him to gain from it in his head, and in his ego, and in his wallet. Oh, and I also left Stephen Miller out of that list, who's definitely a puppet master. Steve Bannon's a puppet master. Mr. Voight is one of the puppet masters, but he's in the Heritage Foundation. Okay. So these puppets have a heavy reliance on outside influencers. We've never had a president who has made public decisions, and he has, based on how he's reported on Fox News. Let me say that again. We've never had a president make decisions based on how he's reported on Fox News. That's not hyperbole. This is a very well-documented fact. You can look it up, that there have been many decisions made by Trump based on what he saw on Fox. That's a puppet. You look at how he does transactional international agreements and stuff like that. It is very rare for him to put America first in any of these other agreements. The safe being and the well-being of the country financially, militarily, and so on and so forth do not come first to him. It's just nature. If he could spin something or make money on the deal with a foreign nation, that's the priority. That's a puppet. Okay. Again, folks, stop making this up. Not making this up. Okay. If you really want hard evidence of that, just simply look no further than the Ukraine-Russian conflict. Promised it would be resolved in 24 hours. Realized he was an idiot and said I was just being sarcastic. Nobody could do that. Promised again it would be resolved in 100 days. Hasn't been resolved in 100 days. Why? Because one of the puppet masters pulling the string is the guy who started the war. That's a big problem. Again, that makes Trump a puppet. His reliance on authoritarian tactics is another big compelling reason to show that he's a puppet. Kim Jong-un is a puppet, right? Well, Kim Jong-un is not really a puppet. He's just a dictator, right? But Trump's reliance on this perception that he has as to how great it is to be dictators and so on and so forth makes him a puppet because he wants to rule by himself. And I think that that's ironic because he's not ruling by himself. Stephen Miller is running deportation program, so we have President Miller. Boyd's running the money, so we have President Boyd. Okay. JD Vance, I don't even know what planet he's on, but yet he has influence from the Heritage Foundation. So you have President JD Vance. You don't have a President Trump. You just don't. It's all puppet. It's literal strings. He wakes up in the morning saying, "You, tell me what am I going to do today? You, tell me who I'm going to hurt today. And then let me go watch Fox to make sure I did a good thing." That's a puppet. Um, and you've got two sides of this argument, which really pissed me off. You've got the MAGA side of it that screams he's not a puppet. He's just staying away from the swamp in DC. What swamp is he staying away from? He created the swamp. He populated the swamp. So what swamp is he getting away from? Well, on the Democrat side, it's painfully obvious that they agree with what I'm saying. We don't have a president. We have a puppet. And with everything that's going on now, right, it's more and more obvious that that he's out of control. His mental status, I can't even talk about. Um, and things are going to get much worse before they get better, and they will get better. At some point, and this is again just my opinion, so hear me out, there is a chance that the puppet is going to lose his usefulness. And I could literally see that coming in the next 6 months, where, with all the new money that ICE is going to get, there's absolutely going to have a tinderbox situation in some state where many people will die because ICE did something they shouldn't have done, and people took it into their own hands, and you're going to have innocent Americans dying, and you're going to have ICE people dying. I could see that coming. That would make the Heritage Foundation extremely happy because, they would just sit there and said, well, we told you it would be without blood, but you started this. No, we didn't start shit. Right? But at some point in time, all the puppet masters may get to a point where they say, we need to cut our losses because this guy is just out of control and the country isn't worth shit anymore. And he's just totally burned this beautiful country to the ground. At which point in time, they all come out and they start cutting the puppet strings. And then what's left would be a shell of a man with no puppet masters anymore. Nobody to defend him. Nobody to fight for him. He'll have his loyal MAGA base, which would be decimated by that time anyway because of the Medicaid cuts and so on and the closing of hospitals. And he's just going to sit there alone as a very lonely man, ready to face some extremely severe consequences. So again, I hope you enjoyed this. This is just my opinion as to where the situation stands. In closing, I will say again, he is a puppet. Think of him as a puppet. And I would encourage everybody to start posting on your social media platforms that he is a puppet because he hates that word. Why? Because he knows it's true. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you all tomorrow morning on the Morning Report.